Good morning, friends. Adab, Sasyakal, and Namaskar. This is my 191st video, and this is a very important video. Everybody must watch. The reason being, this bungalow number 236 MG Road, Lucknow Cant, which is in name of Mr. Shiv Charan, had a lease of 30 years to be renewed for next to 30 years, making it 90 years lease, which had expired on 24th October 2023. Now, as usual, I remember 2017-18 when Delhi Cantonment people went in for a writ. Similarly, the Belgaum people, the Belgaum club, and everybody's been generally, harping on to this, कि Mr. Das, we must go to the court, garner a stay for the recovery with notice or the amount, how it has been calculated. But the problem behind the whole show is I've been shouting on my top of my voice that people do not understand that the minute you make an admission in court that your relation is of a lesser and a lessee, you are left with nothing. Now you are only claiming natural justice. So luckily there are n number of judgments which were basically coming on natural justice, that arbitrarily the government decided about this lease money calculation, so they must be listened. And then when the 2017 policy is in process of making, where a lot of letters had been moved by the Director General Lands, so courts were rendering to those facts that yet the policies is not come in place. So STR, or how to be calculated, what should be the lease money for renewals of these leases, everything was in a open lurch. But yes, courts were rendering stays to these notices, and well, the department had nothing to lose because the stay was on natural justice. But here is this case now. This is a case where a writ was filed in 2024 LKO in the Lucknow bench of Uttar Pradesh, 29943 double bench. The judgment order was reserved on 15 April 2024, finally pronounced on 16th. So, well, we go into the writ number. This is, their advocates are coming, the Respondents Union of India through Ministry of Defence is being represented. So what is this case? I just told you it was the Honorable Mrs. Sangeeta Chandra and Honorable Subhash Vidyarthi judges who had pronounced it. The petitioner, they claim, are in actual physical possession of Shiv Kutir and are residing therein, that they are in de jure possession of the rest of the property called Cator House, which is in occupation of the respondents. Now this is very interesting that some part of the bungalow is already in the hands of the Ministry of Defence, and some part which is called this Cator House is with the owner, Mr. Shiv Charan. So now this bungalow was let out by the predecessor Srimati Lalto Devi, wife of Shiv Charan, way back for 220 rupees in 1941. The entire premises is about 13,597 square meters. Now the petitioner's prayer, now we straight go, what is his prayer? Issue a writ order or direction in nature of a cetroy quashing the impugned notice demand dated 8/12/2023 Annexure 2 and Annexure 3 issued by wide Annexure Respondent number 2 on 19/2/2024 as Annexure 3, that is the DO Lucknow. So, well, the recovery amount is about 91,63,857 for an area of 3.36 acres situated on 236 MG Road, survey number 93/2. So that means the original survey number is 93 and somewhere there separate survey numbers have been given as 93, 93-1 and this is 93-2, Cator House. Second, issue a writ order or direction in nature of a Croy, summoning and quashing the minutes of the Cantonment Boards Lucknow dated 25/9/2023 insofar as to increase the standard table rent of Zone 1 to rupees 566 per square meters with effect from 1 July 2023 to 1 July 2024. Understand what is happening. I'll just brief you later. Now the owner or Shiv Charan's advocate is even claiming that there was a board proceeding dated so and so and the STR which was increased to this amount should be quashed. Okay. The other direction is in the form of a magnanimous declaring clause B(a) of that same policy of 2017 as extended till 2024 insofar direct recovery of lease rent on the basis of standard table rent prevailing on the date of expiry of lease as ultra vires to the provisions of Rule 16, Rule 28 and also Schedule 8 of Cantonment Land Administration Rules and Article 14 of the Constitution. Look at the demands which this Mr. Shiv Charan is seeking from the court. Issue a writ order direction in the form of a magnanimous directing respondent not to take coercive measures against the petitioner in pursuance to the impugned demand dated so and so 23/24 by DO Lucknow and further direct the respondent to even accept the lease money of survey number 93/2 whatever he had been paying. It's a meager amount of rupees 50 per annum. So what is now the owner seeking? Now let's go back. I gave you some 4 things which he was basically seeking. Now the very first thing what he seeks is that the notice which is issued for recovery should be quashed. Friends, the bungalow owner should have remained till here only. But his knowledge was a little higher. So he even went further and bought a board proceeding of the STR. Now he doesn't know that the STR is not calculated by the Cantonment Board. So that board proceeding is irrelevant for this bungalow owner. The STR is calculated by the Defence State Officer and all cantonments which come under his jurisdiction. So one wrong claim. The other claim he says that the STR which is being calculated is in ultra vires or is wrong to the provisions laid in the CLA rules. He is talking of which CLA rules, 1937 or the new CLA rules which have come in place. But he is talking of 1937 when his lease must have come across under Schedule 8. Now without knowing how the STR formula is calculated in 1937, what does Rule 16 say and Rule 28? He is admitting himself that the STR has to be calculated. Now how? Doesn't know. When? Doesn't know. So what is he doing? He is challenging 2 things in one part. So he is putting himself into a jerky position. The third and foremost part, fourth part what he is asking is that let the department recover what he was already paying. Now that is something, you are no more my tenant or you are no more my lessee. Why will I accept rent from you or lessee? It's a very general question. Why was the advocate or the owner insisting upon that 50 rupees to be paid per annum after expiry of his lease? There are n number of cases where leases have expired 10 years back and nothing has happened. But somewhere when you are half baked and you have half knowledge, you generally tend to do all this. Now, here the petitioner is talking of a lease policy which I just mentioned, 2017, and I think most of the people have these kind of letters since now internet and high-tech savvies have come. Government has been extending this, but there is a limitation to extension. Government now realizes that 2024, okay, fine, but we cannot claim under the limitation to the claim which is prior to the 3 years period. So now they've started sending notices of claiming money. You go to court, their claim stands. They don't go to the court, their claim doesn't stand. So this is a very typical relation which most of the advocates or the bungalow owners don't understand. Now, what is the story behind this whole thing? It is very simple. The owner has admitted by going to the court that his relation with the respondent is of a lesser and he is a lessee. So now after this he has got no rights on the soil. He doesn't realize what I've been saying. Prior to 1937 leases, prior to 1925 leases, prior to 1912 Cantonment Code leases, or even 1899 Cantonment Code leases, what were you? What was your land within the boundary pillars of Lucknow Cantonment? Was it an old grant? Or was it a grant? Or was it owned by the ministry or the British government at that time when the boundary pillars of the cantonment? So these are some questions which need to be understood, but I'm sorry, nobody wants to. So cantonment board may be transferred by sale, mortgage, lease or exchange under section 63 of the Act 2006. The board has to manage any property entrusted to its management by the central government, subject to the rules made by the central government under section 346 of Act 2006. In exercise of powers conferred under section 280 of Act 1924 now stands repealed. Central government had framed rules known as Cantonment Land Administrations in 1937. After this act was repealed, the central government, in exercise of its powers under section 346, framed Cantonment Land Administration Rules 2021, hereinafter called CLA Rules 2021. Under Rule 17 of CLA Rules 2021, it has been provided that subsisting cantonment leases given under earlier act shall continue to be governed by the said rules and conditions of the lease deed. Now, either Mr. Shiv Charan should come out with his lease deed. I can imagine Schedule 8 lease deed is not for the civil area, it is for the bungalow area. Neither it is a lease for commercial activity, it is definitely a lease for residential purpose. So we have to understand what are we trying to do. Now the plaintiff or the writ petitioner is in para 4 pleading some rules. He is pleading section 63, section 346, section 280, now repealed, and section 346 and under CLA rules. So these all sections and rules are available on the website of the association. Anybody can go and read it, or even if they are available. Now Rule 6 of CLA, what does it say? It defines B3 lands as that land which has been held by any private person under the provisions of CLA rules in 1937 or may be presumed to be held by the provisions of Cantonment Board Act 1899 or 1912. Now this is not an act, this is a printing error in the plaint as well as in the judgment. It is the code 1899 and 99, under which any executive order previously enforced subject to the conditions under which central government has reserved to themselves the proprietary rights in the soil. Fine. Rule 9 CLA, West Management of Land, all in category B with the MEO or the Defence Estate Officer. Rule 8 very clearly talks of what? Standard table rent has to be prepared by whom? The DO in consultation with the collector, which is suitable for applications on land held for agriculture and non-agriculture purposes, having regard to the situation of site in the cantonment, nature of soils and rate charge for adjacent agriculture lands or building sites in the neighborhood. So this all has been an admission of this bungalow owner. Similarly, in this next para, he is again talking of Rule 6, 9, Rule 8 of CLA. So what are all these? He comes up with a letter, as the respondent number 3 wrote him in 2023, had issued him a demand notice of somewhere around 77 lakhs per annum, and another demand notice on 19 February 2024 in pursuance of the interim policy dated 2024, demanding rupees 91 lakhs to be paid within 90 days for the purpose of processing the issue of execution of lease deed dated 31 December 2024, failing which the petitioner would be deemed to be an unauthorized occupant of the land in question and would be liable for eviction under the provisions of the PP Act. This is the scarecrow. You know, if you people remember, these villagers, they hang a crow, which is called a man-made kind of a crow in the farms, so that the birds can get scared of him. Similarly, this is what the department does. First, it will raise you a bill. In the last line, it will tell you that now you stand unauthorized, and so you will be evicted. So what our advocates and people around us say, come on, you must get a stay from the court. Otherwise, they will barge into your bungalow. PP Act, they will pronounce an order against you, and then after 30 days, they will come and take possession of your bungalow. Are we living in what? Are we yet in the era of kingdoms and slaveries? We are not in it. We have a constitution in place. We are in a democratic setup, and we have our rights given through the constitution. So, well, the lease money calculated is about 91,63,857, which needs to be paid as per para 3. So, there is no pleading done against this calculation sheet. How, when, what, collector rate. Now, I'll come. Rule 16 CLA rules. The annual lease rent fixed under Rule 19, para 8, subjects to Rule 16, which is the rule. There is no specific pleading on this section either by the owner, but he's raised it. Standard table rent was fixed at rupees so and so per square meter in an arbitrary manner, now he says. Yeah, when you know the figure, you know the board proceedings, you could have objected the board proceedings instead of bringing that proceedings in your case. I just don't know, even today people want to go to court, they don't want to reply these notices given. So these rules and regulations, how the same has to be calculated, what is the formula. See, the unfortunate part is neither the owner, neither the petitioner has submitted anything between this happening, what were earlier the lease money or the STRs or the tables, nothing has come on table of the court. Para 9, now what are the rules again he is saying is arbitrary pleading on natural justice. So this is the normal thing which mostly people plead. So now There are no facts in front of the court. So the owner Shiv Charan and his advocate is bringing nothing on record. What natural justice is he looking? He's talking of a notice. He's talking of 2017 to 2024 lease extension. He's talking of STR rates. He's talking of CLA rules 1937. But there is nothing on table to say this is how calculations are done. This is what is written in my lease deed. And this is what was written by the CLA rules 1937. Now if government has come up with a new CLA rules 2021, is it to be endorsed retrospectively or prospectively? So here, however, the rules 1937 which are relied upon by the learned counsel for the petitioners themselves say that the leases shall be governed by standard table of rent to be prepared by MEO. The standard table rent has been prepared in consultation with the collector and shall be compiled taking in account the situation of the site, the nature of the soil and the rates charged for adjacent so and so. Now coming to para 18, here the court states that CLA rules 1937 will prevail over CLA rule 2021. Good enough, same what I just said, retrospectively or prospectively. But where are the facts? I don't know. Since cantonment land belongs to government, now look at this, what finding the government, the court is giving. Ministry of Defence and no part of it can be sold to anyone. Hence, no sale data was available to decide the fair market value of land, but rates oblique values of land situated in the vicinity of Kant area as accessed by the collector are mentioned in the Mulyankan Suchi issued by the collector Lucknow, which is on account of the court. Para 19 of the judgment. Since land does not belong to the lessee and no land within cantonment belongs to an individual, so there was no collector rates made for this area. Not acceptable, the court says. Your pleading is not acceptable. Look, Shiv Charan ji is admitting that land does not belong to him. So, well, these kind of judgments and these kind of fights really become a joke. To arrive to the realistic value of land, the cantonment is divided into 4 zones and 1 subsidiary zone. The disputed property 236 falls in zone 1. The zone comprises of restaurants, banks, post offices, hospitals and commercial areas with wide roads. It is adjacent to the railway station and such localities in Lucknow Municipal Corporation as Mall Avenue, Abadi Kabristan and Vikramaditya Marg, which are somewhat the poshest area of Lucknow city. The collector in the circle rate notified in 2015 has been rupees 21,500 per square meter. Abadi Kabristan 16,000, Vikramaditya Marg 30,000 square meters. The average rate falls down to approximately 22,666,000 per square meter. The average land cost is to be determined in zone 1. The standard table rent for commercial residential area was taken on the basis of 2.5% of the market value. It was fixed at 566.7 per square meter. The petitioner's property is undoubtedly residential and therefore 2.5% of 22,667,000 comes out to be 566. So the department is putting in forward a complete calculation sheet of the collector rate, STR rate and then the calculation of 2.5% being a residential. Had it been commercial, it could have been higher. Now, what are the rules once again? STR Lucknow, Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Petitioners' pleadings are extremely poor. He did not dig out any of the collector rates, maybe from 2000 or maybe 10 years preceding, nothing. Sometimes we don't realize there has been a jump in the value. I'll just put you across a very simple question. Let's say I bought a plot for 500 rupees per square yard. All of a sudden in 1 year that plot has become 5,000 rupees per square yard. I'll be the happiest person on earth that I made so much of money. What if that plot goes down to 250 rupees per square yard? So you lose money. So it's both ways. But the Britishers, 1925, 19 CLA rules had very honestly laid rules how STR is to be calculated. And I remember, I shared something with a boy called Rajan from Belgaum Cantonment, and I think he dug into his tax house structure, and that's where this figure reflects. So you have to be very clear. So the court does not find fixation of rent per square meter per annum as arbitrary. Looking into the area where the property falls, it says everything is right. The petitioner does not has not disputed zone 1. The petitioner is not disputing circle rates. The petitioner is doing nothing. He is only bringing laws on record. But how to counter them, he gets nothing. So the court simply says, no, we cannot give you any relief on natural justice that the department, it was the DC, it was the MEO, station commander, and cantonment board office who sat down together in a board proceedings and came to this conclusion of collector rate and STR. So the STR rate in Lucknow is confirmed. The court has also considered the opinion where the pleading of Article 14, that's discrimination of the conscience, which has been invoked by the learned counsel for the petitioner without explaining as to how the same would apply in his case. What are we doing, sometimes I feel we make a mockery of the judicial system and the laws in place. The last concluding or the para 25, again rules Article 14 not applicable. What is the petitioner doing? He has dug a grave for all of us. This judgment, double bench, will affect every stay taken from 2017. If I had been in place of the government, I would have revisionized the orders of natural justice from each and every court and brought in all these STR rates, let's say Belgaum, Delhi, Faizabad, Ranikhet, anywhere where Lease cases, and coming to Amritsar, the central government being the lesser has determined for the land it owns in Lucknow Cantonment Zone 1, and it has offered that land on lease on conditions termed on its basis of market value adjoining this city. The petitioner being lessee are free to accept or reject the offer. It is my way or highway. Guys, please wake up, yaar. Somebody even today just had a call with me yesterday, and he says, Ronnie ji, there has been another judgment on, I think, 6th May or somewhere from Allahabad bench. Stay has been granted. Guys, understand the stakes. The minute you go to court, your relation is defined, your admission comes. Now you are only under natural justice that A calculated an amount is pretty higher the amount. So I must be given some relief. So the A would say, let the government come up with a policy. Minute that policy is in place, okay, we are not charging you now what we were charging, let's say 91 lakhs to this man, we'll charge you 70 lakhs. So the court will say, okay, fine, 91 and 70 makes a difference. Now what else do you have to fight on? So the court has clearly said, Mr. Shiv Charan, if you are not interested in this offer and condition, you can reject and leave the bungalow. So the relation of a lesser and lessee in para 26 has clearly been proven. Residents, please wake up.